Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Daily Motor, and one of the most impressive glow-ups in the automotive world for 2025 has been the Honda Passport. This thing looks so much cooler than the outgoing model, which wasn't a bad car by any means, but it was just kind of this Honda soft, approachable family sort of styling that we had really come to be used to with Honda over the last 10-15 years or so. But now it's entirely redesigned and comes in this more capable and rugged looking Trailsport model. Not only is there a Trailsport model, but Honda was smart enough to add different versions of the Trailsport and the more basic street-oriented RTL models, so you can get this as a basic Trailsport, or you can get the Trailsport Elite, which is this one that gives you more interior goodies and features. So this evening, I am going to take the Passport Trailsport to my house, and I'm going to load up a Honda ADV 160 adventure scooter onto the back, because this one features a class 3 hitch that should be capable of, let's see right here, maximum tongue weight 500 pounds. So we're going to be pretty close to there with our carrier and the motorcycle, or technically scooter itself. And then we're going to take both this and the ADV 160 out to one of our off-road testing trails, and we're going to see which one is more capable, a slightly rugged version of Honda's scooter or the slightly rugged version of Honda's two-row family crossover, the Passport. And then after the off-roading, we'll wrap up the video with some of my pros and cons after spending a week with the car. But this one you're looking at about $54,000 as you're seeing it. And this very cool green paint. I'll put the color here below. I think it's ash gray. I think it's the same one we're seeing in the CR-V Trailsport. And then this cool interior as well. I know it's getting a little bit dark outside. Oh, that's a fun little animation also. But you'll see it more tomorrow morning in the bright California sunshine. But when Alyssa and I got in this car at the airport, we were immediately impressed with how cool it looks on the inside. And then so far, I have been not surprised, because I expect good, solid handling and driving dynamics from Hondas these days, but still happy nonetheless to get in and feel how nice this thing is to drive in pretty much every sort of scenario I've thrown at it so far. So we're going to get this thing back to the house because we need to swap out these floor mats. Despite this being the Trailsport Elite, we're just dealing with carpeted floor mats in here, and I don't want to get those dirty, so I have a set from LaceFit that we're going to throw in anticipation of getting it dirty tomorrow. Here we go. Let's get this, albeit pretty cool looking floor mat out of here. This is just plain carpet, and swap in the LaceFit mat. So you can see this is laser measured, very durable, kind of flexible, rubbery material, but every car that I've put LaceFit liners in so far have fit perfectly in, and they cover all the little nooks and crannies, and it looks like it is no different here with the Passport. Wow. And these little clips go right over the factory clips as well, exactly where they should be. And you can see way up under the pedal. Hopefully that's coming through okay in the camera here in the darkness, but that's one of the better ones. That's really nice. I like that it covers the door sill as well, because oftentimes you're scuffing that up with your feet. And then I was impressed with how many, I think we've got a cargo mat as well from LaceFit. And that all came with the package. I think this was only like $200 or so. Not bad at all. Rear fitting in nice. You can see it goes way under, so your kids or whoever's riding in the back doesn't get your carpet dirty up under the seats. And look how nicely it ridges along here, along the back for the little cutouts. Very nice. And then what are these? Are these little sections for the trunk? Let's see, this has got to be for the trunk. Let's bring this on back. Clearly goes right in there. That's really cool that they included this. Okay. Covers everything, little liner, but then where do these go? Seat back. They're for the seat backs. Oh, okay. Let me see. So we can hop up here. That makes sense. And they're Velcroed. Okay. That's nifty. Look at that. Okay, I see you, Lace Fit. Very cool. So if you all want to get yourselves a set like this to keep every part of your Passport or similar SUV protected, check the link below. And they're doing a sale, depending on when you catch this, they're doing a sale in the month of August. 20% off if you use the code linked below. If it's after August, then just use the code DailyMotor and you'll get yourself 10% off. But 20% off if you purchase in August. That's a pretty darn good deal. $40 off these mats, something like that. Nice. All right. Okay, let's load up the ADV 160 and put this Passport to the test. Here we are. We've got the Passport loaded up next to Alyssa's Equinox EV. Got the ADV 160 loaded onto the carrier. Nice and secure. Bike weighs just under 300 pounds, so that plus the carrier is probably sitting at about 400 or so. So it should be well under the Passport's load rating. Now, some people like to freak out about the torque put on with these carriers, but knock on wood, I've never had an issue. Can't get a great impression for the squat, although it does look like we're dropped down a little bit. If you were carrying a bike plus a lot of people and gear, you definitely want to be cognizant of your payload. But I think we should be ready to go. So let's hop on in, hit the road. One thing I really like about the Passport, and I'm going to mention it in the pros and cons section, but it has, at least in this Elite trim, it's got proxy key sensors on the rear doors, which is awesome. I've already used it once this week when I was loading Eve up in the back, because then you can just come up to it even while it's locked, touch the door handle in the back, and it opens up. But it was also useful this morning because I came out here to put my gear in, touched the rear handle first, and unlocked it. Lace Fit mats seem to have settled in nicely. Wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, so that should pop right up here on the screen right away. Throw my phone on the wireless device charger there. 50-50 on this wireless device charger so far, because if you're not using a grippy case on your phone, it will slide around depending on how you drive. Something, a silicone case like that seems to be okay for it, but it also isn't actively cooling, so that's a bit unfortunate. Throwing it into reverse with the carrier on there. The backup parking sensors are going nuts, but you can... Oh, shoot, I cleared it. Well, you could, if I hadn't scrolled first. Let's try again. There we go. Push this down to mute the alarm sound, so they did think of that. I've got my navigation set, and you can see up here in the digital gauge cluster, we actually have a mini version of Google Maps showing me my navigation. That's kind of cool. I would be okay with just a kind of a simple directional readout, but it's kind of neat to get the entire what I would be seeing up there in Maps right here in case you have something else going on in your center screen. All right, we've got about an hour out to the off-road trail. I'm going to do a little bit of the sound system test and catch up with you once we get out there, talk about how it did on the highway. Nice smooth drive out here to the off-road area. I'm actually really impressed with the suspension tuning. The extra weight on the back hasn't upset the vehicle at all. It still feels nice and composed. And powertrain has done really well. Honda has their 10-speed nicely dialed in along with this 3.5 V6. Technology worked well. The only thing on the highway, well, two things that I don't really care for. One, the adaptive cruise control. Twice throughout this morning, I don't know if it was the sun or what, but it was slowing way down even though there wasn't any vehicle in front of me. There's a lot of space between me and the next car. Nothing really close on either side, and yet we're doing about 67 when I had the cruise set at 73. So that was frustrating. And then also there's something about the design of the seat bottom. I'll have to get another image outside of the car. But in the very back of the seat, it sort of angles about 45 degrees forward. And in the highway fuel economy test the other night and now today, it keeps scooting me forward, and it's not comfortable. I just don't appreciate it. But here we are, starting to get into the dirt road and off-road sections. And we'll start to put the Passport to a little bit more of the test of how I think most people are going to use it. And I think we'll go a little bit above and beyond today and just kind of push the limits, see what happens when we kind of try to climb something a little too steep and slippery. But either way, I think something more like this road is going to be what the Passport Trailsport is kind of used for. We can switch over to some of our off-road screens. We've got an all-wheel drive torque distribution screen, a pitch and roll screen, and then there's actually a hidden one on the left side. Most people are not going to know about this, but I found it the other night. Let's go. If we scroll all the way down to customize display on the left, and then go down to display content, and then elevation and compass. Now we've got that as well. And there we are. Nabbed a pretty cool spot here where I'm actually going to be able to load and unload the bike without even taking the ramp off, so I like that. Might just be because of the angle again, but definitely seeing quite a bit of suspension squat with the Passport now. Man, this thing looks good in the woods. So we're going to get the ADV 160 off and start messing around with Honda's little soft rotors here. So we've got the two vehicles together here next to each other out at our little off-road testing facility, and I've devised a little bit of a route. So we're going to take the Passport first, and we're going to set a benchmark time. It should be, I think, about 5 minutes or so of a mixture of crawling and dirt road running, and then we're going to come back and run the same thing with the ADV 160. This should be, fairly close, I would think. I will admit I've been taking the ADV 160 around a little bit so far today, and I do think it's got a little bit of an advantage. It's more capable off-road than I thought. And I suspect the Passport is actually quite capable off-road in this new version as well. I just think it's probably a little bit slower speed from a crawling perspective. I bet you there are more difficult hills that the Passport would go up that the ADV 160 would really struggle without having just the right line and just the right rider. But alas, without any further ado, let's hop in. Here we are, stopwatch at the ready. 3, 2, 1, go. Now, mind you, this is still public access area, so I'm not going to be driving like an absolute lunatic. But we're going to have a little energy going here. It's not showing our drive modes while our while our seatbelt warning is still up. Okay, get rid of that. I guess we just gotta wait for it to time out. I have it in sand mode right now. I feel like that's the best for our terrain right now, but we have quite a few different terrain modes in the Passport. Steepest section right here. What modes do we have that might be better? Do we have a rock mode? Why isn't my seatbelt going away? Give me my drive modes. There we go. We got tow, trail, sand. Let's do trail for this section. This bit is actually pretty gnarly. We're gonna have to stay to the left. Ooh, we got a trail cam up though, that's nice. Extra underbody protection for the Trailsport model. Yeah, all right. Be careful. Oh, over these rocks. That wasn't a hit, that was just suspension extending fully. Independent full suspension on this Passport Trailsport, so if you really try to do intense rock crawling, that's going to limit your clearance. But man, I actually really like this camera being up. Glad to have that. Shows me where my tires are. This is actually faring better than I expected so far. Okay. Locking them up. All-terrain tires doing their job out here in the sand. Approach angle, good. Ooh, okay, all right, there we go. That was a hit. Hopefully everything's okay. What was that? Just the ground, I guess? Interesting. Might need to take it a little more careful here with the big boy. But I'm actually mostly just impressed with the comfort. If I had my kids and wife in here, they really wouldn't be getting jostled that badly. Another rock crawl section. Tight turning radius, one last climb. Yeah, all-wheel drive system really doing a great job distributing torque where it needs to go. This is the type of race I would do with Nathan if I still lived back in Michigan. But now I have to do it on my own. Okay, getting out to the road. I think this is where we're going to be able to make up a little bit of time with the Honda. With the big Honda, I should say. Let's switch to sport drive mode for this section. We do have paddle shifters, so really if I didn't want to wait for the 10-speed to downshift, I could be manually holding gear for these hills. Lateral grip is really good too. I mean, this is fairly slippery stuff. Watch out, bird. If you were doing something like taking this out to the desert, you'd actually be able to get down some of those desert trails pretty quick. Clock's going to stop once I'm parked and out of the vehicle. It's off. The door is closed. Right here. $7.15. Whew, okay, a little bit longer than I expected, but that was fun. That was really cool. I guess I just didn't expect it to do well. Like, actually perform well. I thought it was just going to be like, just barely scraping through. That was cool. Okay, little Honda, you're up next. 7:15, our time to beat with the ADV 160. Stand next to it again. Restart. 3, 2, 1, go. We do have proxy key, so we can simply turn it on. Right? Oh, one more. There we go. And we got to get our gloves on. I see that as the equivalent of seatbelt. Come on. These Alpine Stars gloves, a little tight, a little sweaty. Losing valuable time. Okay. And one extra thing we need to do is disable our traction control, which we do by holding that, and we're good to go. Whew. Obviously a little bit more at stake from a safety perspective on two wheels, because if I toss it a little too aggressively through any of these corners and wash out, not going to be a good situation. So you got to kind of balance that. But the reason I decided to pit these two together, these are both kind of soft rotors, as I said at the beginning. They're vehicles that were not intended to be off-road vehicles, but were upfitted, if you will, from the factory to be more capable. Here we go. This is going to be the biggest challenge for the 160. Pick a good line through here. Oh, already kind of falling off. A little bit of spin. Fortunately, we got a low seat height. CVT transmission. Hand controls for the brakes. Wow, okay, that motored up surprisingly well. The ground clearance is also a factor for the ADV 160. Kind of long wheelbase and not a ton of height. It's a little bit higher than your standard Forza 160. Tires are a little bit more aggressive too. And the suspension, a little bit more impressive. Showa shocks in the rear, remote reservoirs. And I have been impressed running around with it so far today, how it takes up the bumps. But it is a scooter, so it's not like I can really stand on it. Front ABS, non-defeatable, so gotta be careful about that as well. Rock section. Deep sand. Oh yeah, I think we got it. I think the 160's got it. As long as I can keep it upright on the road section, I think we'll be in good shape. This thing's surprisingly fun. It really is. All right, shield down. Woo! A little bit of air time. Let's go. Oh, that was rough. That was... Still feel the potholes on this one. One-wheel drive versus four-wheel drive. Let's go. Gonna have to slow down a little bit more than the car for these downhill, off-camber dirt turns. I mean, it's only a scooter, for gosh sakes. Ooh, a little squirrely, a little squirrely. Okay, through the last section, full power, up onto the hills, lock it up, kill it. Kickstand off, and we're looking at, woo, okay, 628. Pretty hearty win for the little guy. Okay, so that was kind of silly and fun, but you know, it's cool to experience two of Honda's fun machines, if you will. Nice. Oh, okay, so at the end of the day, what does this prove? What it shows is that, yes, just because neither of these vehicles are primarily intended to be doing what we just did, they're a lot more capable and, dare I say, a lot more comfortable than you might expect. And if you're somebody who primarily spends your days doing kid drop-off duty or commuting to work or going to class or anything that is just primarily on road, these two vehicles are great for that. This Honda gets decent fuel economy. It's very well equipped inside, heated ventilated seats, child sunshades in the rear, great safety protection. I mean, it's a good, competent on-road family vehicle. And then the ADV 160 has storage underneath, storage up front, proxy key, gets over 100 miles per gallon in mixed riding situations. So these are excellent on-road. But if you do want to go have some adventure, if you do want to take them to a campsite, if you do want to go explore some off-road trails, you can do it confidently and comfortably with vehicles that maybe some of the reviews online will go, oh, well, you got to have a Toyota Land Cruiser or 4Runner in order to do the trails you want to do, and you got to spend $80,000 or $90,000, or oh, you got to have a CRF 300L in order to go ride trail and explore and do adventures. No, that's not true. You can save some money. You can prioritize on-road capability and comfort while still getting pretty good prowess off-road as well. So if you do want to see the full unedited race, check the link below to the full dedicated video on that. But I'm going to do a little bit more shooting with the Passport for the Winding Road channel, and then we're going to load everything back up and talk about some of our lasting on-road pros and cons with the Passport Trailsport. Back here, we have dropped off the bike. Passport's still a decent bit dusty after that trail running, but again, I was just really happy with how that all came together, because I didn't expect this to be, I expected it to be competent, but not necessarily comfortable. So, really impressed with that. But holistically, looking at my week with the car, I do have a few drawbacks, but mostly good things after spending time with the Passport. So, getting into my cons first. Like I mentioned a few times throughout the video, I believe, I've got issue with this seat bottom, and maybe it's just me with the way I sit, but looking at it right here, it's something to do with this outline. My butt is sliding forward because of this, and it might just sound super subtle. Maybe I'm not doing something right with the seat, but something to do with the way this arcs around. Not very comfortable, at least for me. 5'10", 165 pounds. Other than that, the seats seem fine. It's just something to do with that bottom seat cushion comfort. Next, the piano black plastic. This is already kind of this grippy-ish material, and I don't know if that's supposed to prevent it from scratching and looking bad over years, but this, and probably this as well because it's shiny, is going to get really scratched up. Car keys, fingernails, many just life uses, water bottles sliding against it is going to beat up the center console pretty badly. And the piano black plastic here, that's going to be totally fine, but it's not going to look great in the center area. And for a family style vehicle, especially a rugged one like this, I'm disappointed to see that. Next con, coming into the back, it's fairly minor for this class, but I know for some people it's going to be important. No air vents in the ceiling or B-pillars or anything for keeping children cool, especially rear-facing car seat children, because you've got these vents here. And honestly, we've got a baby, and our car doesn't have any vents in the ceiling or anything like that. Most kids have survived without air vents in the ceiling. I get that. It's just something that more and more people are looking for in this kind of family SUV crossover class now. So if they were able to put some air vents right here, maybe that would help keep the kids a little bit more cool in the hot weather. Next con, we gotta start it up, and you hear that 3.5 liter V6 engine come to life. And spoiler alert, this is going to be a Pro as well, but in a class where we're seeing so many more hybrids and things like the Grand Highlander, the Highlander, the Santa Fe, the Sportage. The Explorer, I guess, dropped its hybrid, but that's a little bit of a larger car. But so many more of these mid-size crossovers are coming in some sort of city-friendly sort of powertrain, and I'm not even talking plug-ins or anything like that, but hybrids. Okay, you're not even looking, are you? Goodness. But in a marketplace where so many more mid-size crossovers are coming in hybrid options, it's a shame that if you do a lot of city driving, you're going to be stuck with 20 miles per gallon if you're lucky. Is that acceptable here in 2025, especially for a model that was just refreshed, so we know it's going to be a little while before we see some sort of hybrid? A little disappointing. And the last con is, it's technically pricing, but it's not that I have a specific problem with the pricing. It's just that when you get a Honda, you're paying a little bit of a premium for the engineering and the fit and finish and the design more so necessarily than explicit features. And I'm going to put build quality on top of that if I didn't say that, because there is a ruggedness and a robustness and a fit and finish to Honda products that command a little bit of a price premium. And you might be comparing this to something like the Santa Fe, which was Daily Motors Car of the Year last year, and say, oh, well, with the Santa Fe, I'm getting a lot more features and I'm paying less, so why wouldn't I go for something like that? And there is a valid argument to that. If you're somebody who really prioritizes having the latest and greatest in technology and having things like 2 wireless device chargers and a fuel-efficient hybrid powertrain and camera rear view mirror, and what are we missing? Maybe massaging seats in some models that are similar pricing, more advanced sound systems. I mean, there's a lot go on and on. Things like the blind spot rear view mirror cameras in the gauge cluster and a head-up display. There are features that this Passport doesn't have that for $54,000 you might be saying, well, a lot of competitors do. So you're kind of paying extra for Honda to have its Honda-ness, its robustness, its engineering baked in. Coming back static for the Pros, and the first one is just the styling on this thing. It looks so cool. First time you see one on the road, you're like, whoa, what is that? It's got the orange DRLs in this Trailsport model, and between the wheels and the proportions and the kind of boxiness, the ruggedness, it just looks so cool. And I love that they did this perfectly squared off rear end. Just adds to the practicality, adds to the ruggedness, the styling. I think they did an awesome job with the way this thing looks. And obviously a degree of the styling goes into the functionality as well. The departure and approach angles, it all works. And on top of all that, raised roof rails. We had an Armada Pro 4X that didn't even have raised roof rails. Next, the rear proxy key doors. I'm going to show you exactly why it's useful. You're carrying either child or backpack. You come in and you're right here, the car's locked, unlock, then put your baby or your things in the back, and then you continue on and get in the front. And then opposite is true as well. Okay, you get to where you're going and you park the car, you get out. Okay, got to get my things or got to get my baby. Open up the door, grab your stuff, and then close the door, lock right there, and walk away. Again, it's subtle. It's not hard to just reach up to the front door and unlock it. We have to do it on Alyssa's car all the time. But it's the point that if you're paying $54,000 to get yourself a new vehicle, you want those little creature comforts that are going to improve your life. And that's one of them. And then another one, the next Pro, is outside dimming rear mirrors. Outside dimming outside mirrors. The fact that these are dimmed at this price point, this type of vehicle, love seeing that. Next pro, this is gonna seem fairly minor. Also, quick little bonus, this fun image that comes up there or video. But the fact that we have a little ledge for the touchscreen, something that sounds so subtle, but when you're touching around on the screen, to be able to rest your fingers right here and interact with the touchscreen, that's huge in its usability. If you've ever used a screen that's just tacked on, there's nowhere to rest your fingers, when you're driving, your hand's moving around a little bit from the bumps of the car, it's hard to do things. If you have a place to stabilize your finger, reach up, touch things, it makes a huge difference. That's that subtle design aspect that shows they put care and thought into this car. Next pro, the capability. And it's not even that this is some crazy capable crossover, but it's the fact, like I said earlier, that I think they nailed the amount of capability for this vehicle. The fact that you can go out and do campsite roads, fire roads, maybe some mild trail, and do so comfortably with multiple people in the car and capably. That's right where this vehicle should be. If someone's planning on going and doing serious trail running on a regular basis, they're gonna get something more like a Land Cruiser or a 4Runner, or name your other vehicles that have locking differentials and solid rear axles and disconnecting sway bars. But I think Honda did a really nice job at just barely updating and adding to the capabilities of the Passport without dramatically changing the type of vehicle that it is, and also adding a lot to the cost and complexity. Nice blend of capability for this one. Next pro, the powertrain. I know in the cons I said the powertrain was a bit of a con, but to some people, having such a ubiquitous and simple and straightforward engine like Honda's 3.5 V6 is going to be worth whatever sort of penalty you're going to pay in fuel economy. I mean, this thing still got 24 mpg on our highway fuel economy test, and that's with its all-terrain tires. I bet you the RTL model would do a little bit better even. With the 10-speed transmission in sort of mixed driving, it's okay. And for getting the simplicity and the straightforwardness, no hybridization, I don't think this has active fuel management. I'll have to check. If I can verify it, I'll put it here below. But it's a powertrain that a lot of shops are going to know how to use and work on, and parts are going to be straightforward. Honda puts this in so many vehicles. It's tried and true and straightforward. A lot of people are going to appreciate that. Not to mention, I mean, some people just don't want turbocharged four-cylinders powering their mid-size crossovers. They want an NAV6, and that's what Honda's still giving you here. The last pro is what I like to call Honda-ness. It's the clicks in the switchgear. It's the predictability in the powertrain. It's the tightness with which everything is engineered, the way the doors feel and sound, and the way the steering feels. There's a solidness and a completeness to everything about this vehicle. And that's the reason why you see so many old Honda Pilots running around, or Civics or Accords. I mean, it's a longevity and a durability, but also a confidence in the product. When you're feeling it in the showroom for the very first time or taking it for a test drive, you go, oh wow, this is a very straightforward and robust vehicle. And then there's a subtlety to the way Hondas drive. It doesn't matter if it's a Honda Odyssey. That's going to be the most engaging driving minivan on the market, because there's just a way that Honda engineers its products. Look, there's an old Pilot right there. And the way Honda engineers its products is to be a little bit more fun to drive than a Toyota, for example. The Hondas will always be more engaging, and that's just in their DNA. And that's why you'll see and hear so many automotive enthusiasts sing Honda's praises, because they're just that much more fun to drive. And if you have kids or you have obligations that require you to drive a bigger vehicle like this, you might want it to be a Honda, because you're going to enjoy driving it that much more. So I like the Passport. I really do. For me personally, I like what the Trailsport offers. Now, I would like to spend time in an RTL as well and just feel what else Honda has to offer, to make sure that the Passport is still a good choice for somebody who doesn't ever plan on going off paved roads. That is my only holdup of where, okay, maybe there are some other offerings in this class that make a little bit more sense, because if you just want to look cool, you don't need the capability of the Passport, then do you really need the Trailsport model? Probably not. But either way, before we wrap up, we need to put the Honda Passport on the Daily Motor leaderboard. Current leaders of the Daily Motor leaderboard: Ford F-150, Hyundai Santa Fe, and Jeep Gladiator. Oh man, this is going to get tough, because this vehicle has been really good, and it really works well. Do I like it more than the Santa Fe? I think the Santa Fe lineup is more comprehensive, because you get everything from the XRT, which isn't quite as capable as this, but it does give you the looks and the all-terrain tires. And then you've got the hybrid and the calligraphy, and the Passport doesn't give you that. You're a little bit more limited. But what it does better. This is where it's going. Third place, just behind the Hyundai Santa Fe. And don't get me wrong, if your lifestyle fits the Passport better than the Santa Fe, then by all means, get the Passport. It exists for a reason. And if you're just a Honda enthusiast, I cannot blame you at all for that. Get the Passport over the Santa Fe. If you don't trust Hyundai for reliability for whatever reasons, get the Honda. But if you are somebody who's never going to take their car off-road, you really couldn't care less about looking cool, you just want a competent and feature-packed and good value family midsize crossover, I would still give the edge to the Santa Fe. So thank you all so much for watching. If you do want to see more on the Honda Passport, check the link below, and we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.